Gonglewski talking with Pamela Haines about her new book of poetry, Alive in This World. And today I wanted to ask you about the influences in your life in terms of poetry. What poets do you like? Who do you look for inspiration? What poets do you read?
Well, I would say my mother. My mother loved poetry. My mother loved memorizing poetry. And so I think that her love was an early influence for me. I don't have poets that are my favorites, though there's some that I like. I think if I'm thinking about early influences, I think when I was like 10, I think we did something in Sunday school about cultures of the world, and we were introduced to Japanese haiku and the idea that you could take 17 syllables and create something real. That was a stunning idea to me. So that's been a really I think that's been an important influence. So and part of that's like paring something down to its essence. So that's been important to me. And another thing, I really love the Greek, like Homer, where you didn't have to rhyme, because I think, that most of the poetry that my mother memorized was rhyming poetry. And that was kind of the culture, Western, whatever is, you make rhymes. But the idea that rhythm can be what holds a poem together, that was also just a big and astonishing idea to me. And to be freed from the need to rhyme, that helped a lot. So
It's
so two of
mostly
them.
it's mostly free verse that you write in. Is that correct? Or
It is. There's one poem at the very end, which is in the sonnet form, which is a very rigorous form. And it's partly because the idea was such a general one. I thought, well, maybe I could experiment with it. But that took a long time. And it was fun. It was a great challenge. But the free form is more how it's more mine.
yeah, it
But I
comes to
do
you
think
very
about rhythm.
naturally.
I think about words. I think about words a lot, and I do think about rhythm. I think about how it sounds. So
And
yeah,
haiku, do you ever dabble in haiku?
I do. I do. I don't. It's like 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. I don't always do that, but I did a series of neighborhood haikus, just image, a little image, and a series of little images. There's something about that speaks to me. I don't. There's maybe one haiku in the poetry book, but I do like that form.
Fantastic. And do you want to talk a little bit about your craft? Like I imagine you, in the morning in front of a window, clearing space on a desk and getting to the task of writing a poem. But is it completely different from that? How is your
Yep, yep.
craft?
Completely different. Completely different. I take a walk, so I'm nearly always in motion while I'm writing a poem, or I'm walking to the park, and it's like things are kind of coming into my mind, and then I sit on a bench sometimes and I write a few lines. I always carry a notebook with me when I walk, and it feels like a very generative time. It's often early morning when not very many people are around, and well, except when I'm on the trolley, but yeah, and then working at it, like, okay, so I want this concept, but if I say it this way, that's way too long, and it's hard to get your mouth around it. So how could you say it in a way that flows? You got this concept, and how can you get your words right? So I work on that, and
Wow.
then I put things in my notebook, and then I come home, and then I transcribe that into the computer, and then I work on the computer until it seems like I've gotten rid of all the excess. I sometimes think about it like sculpture. You've got a piece of stone or something, you have the idea of what's inside it, you got to take away the excess, until then what you've got left is the thing that you were really going for. So
And
if
how
I
many
take away,
times, oh, I'm sorry, how many times do you usually revisit?
I do it till it's done. And then, so somebody says, how do you know it's done? I just know that it's done. It's like I go back and I think, okay, this is pretty good, except this one place here is not, it's just not right yet. And I work on it and then I come back. I'm in no hurry to complete a poem. So often what I do is I write it and then I just leave it. And then I come back and look at it and I think, no, it's pretty good, except here, nah. And then I work on that and then I leave it. And then I come back and I read it. And sometimes I think, oh yeah, okay, that's it. Or sometimes I'll come back a year later and say, well, that was done then, but now I think I would change it a little bit more.
Oh, I was wondering about that because then I would be hesitant to publish if it were always changing, if you came back a year later and said, "Oh no, it's different." But then
Oh,
I guess it's a different poem.
yeah, yeah, well, that's where it is at this stage. So what I published is where I was at that point, and maybe it would get better sometime, but it was good enough. Like it was that was I was content at that point with it that way.
Wonderful life lesson. Thank you so much.
Sure.